Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 3 of the Rusty Rhino podcast. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. And if you like what we're doing here, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and share this video, get it out there to your friends. Episode 3 of the Rusty Rhino podcast is with a friend of mine, Lawrence Joyner. We called him Black Cat. That was his call sign in the desert. In 2007, we deployed together, and he's got quite the interesting story. He did gun trucks and a couple line haul missions. He's a great guy. So here we go. Let's kick this thing off. All right, everyone. So I got Lawrence Joyner on the podcast here. How you doing, buddy?
Feeling outstanding, Ryan. How are you?
Not bad at all. So how's it going, man? What are you up to these days?
Quarantining, dealing with this nonsense like everybody else. I'm living just outside of DC. Working for Discovery Communications, doing some media logistics. Similar to what we used to do, but now it's media, and I don't actually have to move and go anywhere and do anything physically.
Cool. So you can just work out of the house.
Yeah. Before the pandemic, I was working out of the house 3 days a week. So it just kind of like, they were like, hey, those other 2 days, don't come into the office. So
that works, huh?
Yeah.
How do you like that? How do you like working from home?
It definitely has its plus and minuses. Like I definitely dig it. Like I have living outside of DC and having to commute through DC to my office. Like the commute was awful. 2 hours sometimes stuck in traffic, just garbage. So that alone is worth working from home. But there's more distractions from home, obviously. But overall, I definitely take that versus the office any day of the week.
Yeah. It's just you at home, or?
No, me and my wife. Just us two. We have a townhouse, so we're just kind of been stuck in here for the last however long. She teaches, so she just started working again, but she's teaching from home, and she ended last school year teaching from home. So we both just kind of split off. She goes to her office, I go to mine, and then we see each other at lunch, and we see each other after work.
Yeah, just come walk down the hall, get something to eat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So what are your hobbies, man? What are you currently doing for fun?
Mostly photography is probably my biggest hobby. Other than video games, that never goes anywhere.
Yeah.
But other than that, as far as like things that actually make me leave the house, photography is definitely the number one thing.
Cool. What games you play?
Grand Theft Auto, and then I'm usually playing whatever the current basketball game is. So it was 2K20. Now it's going to be 2K21. I just kind of play that until the next one comes out.
Cool. Right on. Yeah, I do. I still play video games like I'm a kid. I just pretty much play one game, man. I've been playing for the last 5 years. It's called Arma.
Mm-hmm.
But Arma 3. It's like a kind of
RPG, MMO
kind of realistic like third person, first person shooter. I mean, you can call in it's all, there's no real AI. It's just player versus player.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's got everything like you would have in a real military. I mean, airplanes and tanks and everything like that, and really, really large maps. It's cool. You get a good team going. I mean, you're talking like 100 people on a server. And,
that's crazy.
Yeah, so you get a real good team going, and it's like you see someone go in a building. It's like, I'm not going in there calling the A10. Brrr. They come drop bombs on the thing. Yeah,
is that PC?
Yeah, PC.
It sounds PC-ish.
Yeah.
When you say 100 people on a server, I'm like, I don't know. That's got to be PC.
Right. You got a morning routine, something you stick to every day? Go to the gym or anything? Probably not in the pandemic.
Yeah, not in the pandemic. For a while I did, because my wife and I, before we got the house, we were living in an apartment in DC, And I had like this amazing commute where I walked to the end of my block and got on the bus, and the bus went right down 16th Street and stopped like at my building almost. You know, it was like one bus, one shot. So every morning, I would take my gym bag and I'd get off, go to Planet Fitness, shower there, and then go to work. And that was like a nice routine. But now that we moved to the house, that would require driving to a whole nother place to go to the gym and then do that. So during the pandemic, we set up a little home gym in the basement. So we've been doing that, trying to do like 3 days a week. Some weeks are better than others. Last week was a 0 workout week.
I've had my fair share of those.
Yeah, it happens.
0 workout month.
Right. I think the important thing is not to beat yourself up and just get back on it when you can.
Yeah,
I've never been like a hardcore fitness junkie anyway. So it's like I'm getting to an age where I just don't want to like break down. So it's all maintenance at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the attitude I have towards it. Like when I don't do anything all day and like I do something and I'm tired or whatever, I'm like, all right, I gotta start getting back into the gym.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm lucky the place I work now, literally, you can throw a football and hit the gym from it. So I was doing the morning thing for a while, and I used to do it at my previous job. I'd wake up 4:00 in the morning, head to the gym, do an hour-ish workout, and, shower up, going to work. But I just can't get up that early anymore. So I've been doing it after work. But if I go 2-3 days a week, that's a win. If I go,
I admire those guys. I want to be one of those like 5 a.m. workout people sometimes, but I just don't have it in me. So
yeah,
I feel like even when if I do end up going back to my office, the days that I work from home will be my workout days, and I'll just go in the basement and do what I got to do. And I feel like I can keep that up.
Yeah, for sure. So, what's your dream vehicle?
Dream vehicle? Ooh, probably like a Volkswagen bus. Not necessarily the bus, but like the what's it called? The Westfalia, like the camper version. Where the top pops up and all that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd probably be my jam. Like, and right, I mean, you can find them used from anywhere from like 20 to 30 grand because people like keep them up. They're not broken down, a lot of them.
Yeah.
But that'd probably be my dream.
You win the lottery, that's what you buy?
I mean, winning the lottery. I guess I was thinking more like what's obtainable. Like what can I actually get for myself versus I don't know. It'd probably be something stupid like a Ferrari or I don't know. Something just ridiculous that turn heads and I would be too afraid to drive.
I used to like those sport cars until I started getting the opportunity to sit in them here and there,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
you're like not comfortable at all.
I'm 6'1". I'm like, yeah, it ain't working.
Well, that's another thing. They're not built for you.
Yeah. How about drink? What's your favorite drink? Alcoholic or non-alcoholic or both?
Probably be whiskey in general. Just like not really specific in what it is, but just whatever's dark and whiskey-ish is kind of my jam.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I like whiskey, and again, I'm not too picky. I'm not too picky about it. To me, I've had the expensive stuff, and I don't have the taste buds for it. I've gone down that road with the coffee too. Like, I get this really expensive, and I'm like, man, it tastes the same to me.
I'm like, Folgers is pretty good, man.
Yeah.
And it's widely available, and I can get a big old bucket of it in the grocery store for like $3.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that works for me.
Exactly. So, before you got in the military, what was childhood like? What was growing up? Where are you from? And what was growing up like?
I'm from Fort Washington, Maryland. It's a suburb outside of DC, not far from where I am now. In the DMV, as they call it, close to Virginia, close to Maryland. My dad worked in the Alexandria, Virginia school system. So we lived in Maryland right over the bridge. And my mom was a teacher in Maryland. So that's where I grew up, Fort Washington, Maryland. Normal childhood, I feel like very middle class, uh, kind of neighborhood, dead end street, play with my friends, rode bikes. We had woods behind my house. I had a tree house, ran around the woods and stuff like that, water gun fights, the normal. Um, and two older sisters. And yeah, I feel like I had a very normal childhood. It was just like the fact that we were so close to DC, and because DC has like this stigma about their schools, a lot of the kids I went to school with weren't necessarily from where I was from. So it's like I lived in this very normal suburban neighborhood where it wasn't violence or any of those this is kind of normal. And then I go to school and like I was like with the roughest kids that you could find.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like always in this like middle ground between like, I can pick flowers in front of my house, but like I can get jumped in middle school. So
yeah, I had something similar. I was born in Chicago, and I lived in Chicago. I started sixth grade in Wisconsin, so I went to this. Basically, they bust in a lot of kids from bad neighborhoods, and that was kind of the same thing in my neighborhood, where the school was. It was really, really nice, and no problems. And then yeah, same thing as like you really had to watch your back at school.
Yeah.
Like what size school? See, you say suburban, like I mean,
yeah. No, go ahead.
No, my graduating class was like 34 people.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, that's tiny. That's like my sister went to private school and her graduating class was like 25, like really super small. Mine was 300 in my senior class. And then my oldest sister graduated, from private school, 25 people in her class. I'm the youngest. I went to public school, 300 in my class. And then the sister in between us, she went to like this giant public school. She had like 600 and something people in her senior class. Like they had just like a gigantic school. So it's kind of hard. It depends. Like I don't know what my school measures up to. Like what's normal in a graduating class.
Yeah, no, I think it's just all over the place depending on where you're at.
It felt pretty average to me.
You do sports or anything like that?
Growing up, like I wanted to play football when I was a kid. Cause I was always really fast as a kid. Like, I was small, but I was really fast, and I wanted to be like a running back. And I want to say it was fourth grade. All my friends were joining the football team, and I asked my mom, and she just gave me like a hard no, not even an explanation or a will see or if your grades, nothing. Just no, you will not play football. That's not even an option. So I played basketball for a few years, into middle school. Wasn't good enough to ever make like an actual team or anything. Couldn't play in high school or anything like that, but I played for fun, and I'm still a fan of, basketball. Like I watch NBA and stuff like that, but, yeah, I was never a huge jock, just kind of like backyard football. I don't know if you guys played throwback tackle. It has different names, different places, but when you have a bunch of guys and you don't have enough to play teams, so one guy will throw the ball up, and then whoever catches it has to then try to run through everybody else.
Okay.
Like so we played a lot of like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like baseball in the yard.
Yeah, we had a name for that. I don't think it's too politically correct in 2020.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I never heard that name until way later, and I was like, "Yeah, I think that's the game we played too."
Yeah,
yeah. Was it Smear?
Yep. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was a kid in Chicago, we played that a lot. We did a lot of street hockey, rode our bikes everywhere. It was a big change for me because I went from, I would wake up on the weekend, Saturday morning, and I was that kid that everyone's parents probably hated because I'd be knocking on their door at 8:00 in the morning on a Saturday or Sunday, like, "Hey, can Timmy come out and play?" And I would just go drive around the neighborhood on my bike, gather up all the kids, and be like, "All right, let's just do something." Then I moved to Wisconsin. It's like way out in the country. My nearest neighbor was like 3/4 of a mile away, and yeah, it was like, all right. That's when I started.
You're not gonna make that ride every Saturday morning.
Nope. My nearest friend probably half a day's bike ride away. But
if you gotta pack a lunch to go see a friend, it's a little far.
So yeah, that's when I started getting into playing computer games and stuff like that. Had the internet and stuff. That's when I became a nerd.
It's the way to go.
Yeah. So, did you join up the Air Force right after high school then, or?
No, right. So my dad was a vet. But he was out way before I was born. He served in Vietnam. So he was out. He got shot. He actually got shot in Vietnam, and that's how he got out of the Army. So he was well out before I was even thought of. So growing up, like that was always kind of in the back of my mind, like, hey, if this doesn't work, I could always just join the Army. Like, it's like that's an option if school isn't going very well. And I wasn't a good student at all. So, but I was in the marching band, like in high school. So my plan was to get a band scholarship, go to college, like an HBCU college and be in the band and do all that fun stuff. But my grades were just garbage. So it didn't matter if I was good at playing the trumpet or not. They were like, nobody wants you, man. You're kind of dumb.
So what, like a CD student or BC or?
Yeah, yeah, C. Like 2 point something, kind of strong, So yeah, that was most of the time. I mean, I found out as an adult, skipping ahead, that I had ADHD the whole time. So probably if that could have been found out, it might have helped me a little bit.
Yeah. I was.
But anyway.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that, but that kept me from doing well in school, so I didn't go to college. So after high school, I went to community college to try to get my grades up to go to college. But halfway through the second semester at community college, I was just like, screw this. And I called, my dad said, you can join anything, but don't join the Army.
Yeah.
So
is that what he was in the Army?
Yeah, he was in the Army. He was like, don't do it, man. Don't even think about it. Don't join the Army or the Marines. So, I went to talk to an Air Force recruiter.
Yeah. So, what year is this?
That's I joined in November 2003.
Okay.
Yeah, November 2003. So I got to my first duty station in 2004. So yeah, 2003.
Where was your first duty station?
Aviano.
Okay.
Aviano Air Base, Italy. That's my first base.
Let's back up. Actually, what were you doing on September 11th?
That was 11th grade, I think. And I was in school, and I think we're in second period. I want to say is when we first started hearing stuff. And because of where my school was, we had tons of students whose parents worked at the Pentagon. Like a lot of government employees' kids, all live in that area in Maryland. So, kids were freaking out. They were like, what's going on? What's going on? I got to get out of here. I got to call my parents. And then we went to our next class, and they kind of did like we're not doing any class, just everybody watch the TV. And then when the second plane hit, that's when they were like, all right, we're sending everybody home for the day. So that was a pretty weird one. It felt really close because of the Pentagon part of all of it.
Yeah, I bet. So what's your mindset like? You're joining up post 9/11, like, but you're joining the Air Force. Are you thinking? I mean, is going to war like actually seeing any combat or anything? Is that like, it's not going to happen? This is the Air Force. That they don't do that.
Yeah, not even close. Like, it's not even on my mind. I got that AFSC as a 221 because someone in basic training told me like, hey man, you're just going to be driving around. It's pretty chill. You get 2-hour lunch breaks. And like, they sold me all this, lax kind of life. And I was like, oh, that's totally fine. It wasn't until tech school that I started hearing about what was actually going to happen. Cause I mean, it's like, I'm in tech school in 2004. So the first groups are kind of are either already there or are going, so the instructors all knew. what
Yeah,
we were getting into.
yeah, and they were doing convoy security gun trucks. So
Yeah. Mhm.
Humvees with 50 cals, Mark 19s mounted on top, protecting bullets, beans, and band-aids, taking cargo through the streets of Iraq.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you're
That's
starting to hear about all this. What's how's that play into your mindset? You just
I feel like I was young enough that, and I had kind of that machismo you get. I don't know about you because you're probably already like tall and tough, but like, for me, going into basic training at like 115 pounds, like they had beaten this into my head that I was like this hardcore, airman that could do anything, warrior. So when I first heard about it, it was like a little bit of trepidation, being like, all right, this is scary, but it's also like, okay, this is badass at the same time. And I get to kind of prove myself. Now I get to go do this thing that nobody else gets to do. Like, I had a dad that was in a war. I get to actually go to war now, and I can talk to him, and I can, it was kind of that filled my head more than the fear of it. Because there was a kid in tech school that he was like a week or two ahead of me, and he got his assignment for his first duty station. And he talked to someone at that duty station. They told him that he was going to deploy. Like as soon as he can, he's going to get deployed. And I remember him crying. And I was like, why is this dude crying? Like, that's so exciting. He gets to go to Iraq. That's awesome. And
yeah.
but he didn't see it that way. And now, like looking back, no, it's not awesome at all. It's kind of actually terrifying. But at the time, I don't think I was that afraid of
Right on.
it. Yeah.
So you graduate tech school, you get to your first duty station. Where was that again?
That's Aviano Air Base, Italy.
Oh, lucky.
Yeah, I was the only person in my class to go overseas. Everybody else got stateside bases.
How? Nah, I mean, I was in for 2.5 years before I got stationed at RAF Mildenhall in England, and heck, just going. I was at Davis Monthan, my first duty station. Just going there was a little bit nerve wracking as far as like, man, how am I going to, what's this airport and I flying and getting picked up, and how do I get to base? Now you're in a country where they don't even speak English. Like, how was your sponsor? Like,
my sponsor was like overzealous and kind of a weird guy, but he took good care of me, and he showed me the ropes as best as he could. And it was a bonus that when I got there, for some reason, like I flew, I guess because of my orders, I flew into the base. So
nice.
I landed at Aviano, so I didn't have to be like, what airport, where, who, when, like that kind of thing. So I flew into there, and like my senior mass sergeant and my sponsor and some other folks were like just standing right there, grabbed my bags and was like, let's go. And at the terminal is actually like like right down the street from vehicle ops. So we kind of like walked out of the terminal and across the street, and we were at the shop. So it was probably the most seamless first duty station arrival that you could have. But it was definitely weird. I landed and I saw like the Alps. It was just, I'd never seen mountains that big before. And it was just, the air smelled different and the cars were weird. And I was like, what is a Fiat? I'd never seen one before. Opals and stuff like that. And all these just like weird stuff but it was, I wouldn't trade it for the world because I needed that culture shock, I think, coming out of a pretty homogenous city that like I knew everyone I knew was like me. They look like me. They talk like me. They sound like me. It was just like a really good, just punch in the face culture shock to just do something completely different. And I think that kind of changed who I am, probably.
Yeah, for sure. So what's the ops tempo like? You get there and, typically your first duty station, you get there and it's not, you still got training to do. You still got CDC, you got a bunch of books you got to go through and take tests on and, kind of get qualified yet still. So what's that like? What's getting trained up like? I mean, what's the op tempo?
Op tempo is it's fast, but it's mostly fast because we're undermanned. I'm sure you've been in one of those kind of shops where it's like, if you look at it, it wasn't like we were doing something completely out of the ordinary. It was just that, hey, there's 4 airmen in here, on day shift. And yeah, you just had to do everything. And we had one of those, leadership guys that felt like if you were sitting down, you were being lazy. You know, we had like a couch and a TV that we weren't allowed to sit on the couch and we weren't allowed to turn the TV on. Yeah. If you were sitting there eating lunch at the table and your food was done, but you were drinking a soda, he'd be like, you're done now. Why aren't you outside looking for something to do? So it was just really annoying, just a really annoying shop. I was going to ask you about this. When you went to tech school, was Sergeant Hensley there?
That sounds familiar.
Okay, because I feel like you would be around that time. But my trainer and my first supervisor was Tech Sergeant Hensley, who ended up going to the schoolhouse and being an instructor there. So a lot of airmen know him that are 2T1s. But he was just super awesome. Like just really good guy. He's a Texas guy. Had like a super Southern drawl. He'd call everybody buddy or bud. Yeah, that was it. He'd be like, "How you doing, bud?" But he was super cool, and he took me under his wing when I first got there, and really walked me through the training, and he got me certified. Because I mean, again, everybody knew what was on the horizon. Everybody knew that we were basically training everybody to deploy. So all that upgrade training and stuff, they were like, "There's no time to waste. You got to get in here, learn this," and it actually went pretty smoothly. The shop overall I wasn't a fan of, but training and everything was actually pretty good.
Yeah. So were you trying to get on a deployment? Were you like, let's do this? Yeah, that's how I was too. I was annoyed. I'm sure I annoyed him at Davis Mott. I was like, I got there like day one. I'm like, all right, I didn't even know right away that they're doing convoys, but as soon as I started hearing about it, I'm like, yeah, let's go. This is fun. And we'd sit around the smoke pit, and a lot of those guys had just gotten back. We had a Purple Heart in the shop. Nelson was his name. And, so a lot of those guys there, Brooks and a lot of those guys had been in some shit. And, so I'm sitting around the smoke pit hearing these war stories, and I'm like, hell yeah. So
get me in it.
Yeah. So every other day, it seemed like I'm like, all right, how can I go? Like you'd hear someone like getting pulled off because they got hurt or something. I'd be like, well, there's an open slot. Put me on. And they're like, bro, you got to do your CDCs first. You don't even
know how to drive anything.
Yeah. Like, you're not even signed off on tractor trailer yet, man. Like, calm down. You'll get your chance. So you did deploy though out of Aviano, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. I deployed in 2005. When I got there, we had guys that were already there, already in Iraq. And those guys came back and, similar to you, they had all the stories in the world. Cause those first groups, geez, it was a whole different ball game out there. A lot of it due to their lack of armors. A lot of those guys wouldn't have even had to deal with what they did if they had the proper vehicles, they came back with all the war stories, and I was already hyped up to go. We had another group that was about to go in 2005, in April of 2005, I believe they were going to leave. And there was one guy on that deployment who, the guys who say that they're hurt in some way, and then they go, hey, I went to the doctor and they can't even figure out what's wrong with me. And you're like, that's probably because there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
So we had one of those guys, and he kind of kept saying that he couldn't go. And I had been volunteering, but it was like they ended up leaving and they didn't take the guy. And, we know now that that's not how a tasking works. If they ask for 5, they want 5. You don't get to just send 4 and leave one guy home.
Yeah.
So I was out doing an air crew. And I got a phone call. I got a call on my cell, and they said, "Hey, you still want to deploy?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "You got 48 hours to leave." These guys were already at BC3.
Wow.
So I had to. So my supervisor basically took my checklist and out processed the base for me. Like he just ran around and got everybody to sign that thing. And to the point, well, yeah, I feel like nobody can get in trouble for this now. So to the point that like. I was at the dental clinic, I think on like day 1 or 2 of my out processing, and I was in a GOV and I backed out of a space and I hit a car. Nice. And my supervisor just showed up and he was like, keep out processing, I'll do it. And like he just handled it. Yeah, he just took it. Like, nice. Hey man, it's cool. He was like, dude, we don't have time for this. You gotta go. We can't have your license being in jeopardy or any of that. So
that's a good supervisor taking one for the team.
He
Yeah.
really did, man. Yeah, so that's how I ended up going 48 hours, and then I was out of
Wow. Yeah, because that's a whole
there.
process. I mean, it takes weeks.
Yeah.
Um, it takes weeks to get out processed if you're doing it, kind of by the books. And, you got to
Right.
go get all these medical checkups, and they got to make sure
Hmm.
you're healthy, and they got to make sure you got your will in order. And, they kind of
Hmm.
put you through all these briefings and everything. And yeah, for you, they're just like, yeah, bye.
Yeah, just go. Yeah, I feel like it may be because of the urgency and what we were doing. I feel like there were some things being worked in the back, up at the top. Like I'm sure my chief and my commander. I mean, I was at A1C. I had no idea what was going on, but they, I'm sure that they were talking to like the med clinic, being like, "Hey, Joyner's coming. He needs to get through this." I mean, to me, it just felt like I was just floating through things, and my supervisor was doing stuff. But I'm sure that people were at the top making all
Yeah,
that
getting
stuff
phone
happen.
calls. Hey, make this go easy.
Yeah. He needs to be in front of whoever else is in that room.
Cool,
So yeah,
man.
that was it. And I just showed up to BC3 like a weirdo, all late.
So
It was
BC3
odd.
basic convoy training course, and
Yeah.
that's in Texas
Hmm.
by what was it, by San Antonio,
Yep.
Camp Bolus. What I heard all kinds of stories about early BC3 days. What were they having you do there? Were they still like making you wash clothes with a toothbrush and?
We didn't wash clothes with a toothbrush. I honestly don't know if we ever washed clothes. Like now that I think about it, I don't remember ever washing clothes. Maybe we did. I'm sure we had to, but I don't remember that. Yeah, it was like our instructors. A lot of them were special forces guys and security forces. It was like some of them had like Ranger tabs, but they were Air Force, and they were kind of like these other kind of guys. So they were like, everything was drop, flutter kicks, roll over in the dirt, push ups, like all this kind of crazy kind of stuff that as an Air Force guy, you're just not used to. Like
Wow.
it was PT to another level. And then the conditions, I mean, there were tents. A tent is a tent, but the bathroom was like these toilets it was just like picture like a hallway, a narrow hallway. And then on both sides of the hallway, there's toilets, but there's no dividers in between. So if you're sitting and another guy's sitting, you're like knee to knee.
Oh,
Like,
that's fun.
yeah,
Hey,
it
bro,
was
you want
super
to
awkward.
pass me that toilet paper over there? What are you reading?
Yeah. The joke was like, you want a thumb wrestle? It was weird, man. It was a weird one.
So, do you ever talk to those dudes? I mean, that sounds crazy. Dudes with Ranger tabs in the Air Force, they must have been. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. You
I don't
ever
know what
find
the hell
out
they
like
were.
what? I mean, when I was in
Well, I
a
mean, go ahead.
deployment transition center in Germany, I ran into a couple security forces guys who were like snipers, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Yeah, we're trained snipers."
Yeah.
And so I guess my point is, there's certain elements of security forces that kind of get spun up on different specialties. So I'm just curious
Whole different game.
if you've ever found out what those dudes were doing, man. They sound like
They that after that first deployment almost made me cross train to security forces because I found out all the other stuff they do. Because I mean, all we knew was like they're at the gate checking IDs and rolling around on the airfield. Like nobody wants to do that crap.
yeah.
But then I met all these guys who were like, no, like you said, I'm a sniper. I do this, I do that. And I was like, whoa. There's a whole nother echelon to this thing that I didn't even know about. And it seems pretty cool. But I think some of those instructors, looking back, I feel like one of them might have been like a CCT guy, like a combat control guy.
Okay.
And
that would make
honestly,
sense.
the other guys, I don't know.
Yeah, that would make sense. I had always heard too, that the kind of origins of that training in BC3 was it had a the Air Force Special Forces training division had a hand in it too, and setting it up initially. So that kind of speaks to that, I think.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's cool. So what do they got you doing in BC3 besides just PTing the hell out of you?
Man, a lot of things that we didn't need.
Yeah.
Some things we really did and some things we really didn't. I think the idea, like you were saying, the idea that special ops and security forces had such a hand in the training, their idea, I think, of what we were going to do as gun truck security was a little different. They had a lot of things with us getting out of vehicles where, like, once we got over there, we were like, we're not getting out of a vehicle unless we have to get out of a vehicle. They were like, hey, we're going to, if you get contact, you're going to go into a box formation. Everybody gets out and takes up a defensive posture and stuff like that. And we're like, cool at the time. And then we get in country and they're like, no, don't get out of your vehicle.
Yeah.
We have a gun on top of your vehicle.
Skinny pedal to the floor.
Exactly. Like, first of all, floor it. If you can't floor it, you have guns on top of your vehicle for a reason. Why would you get out and use your M4 when you have a M2 on the top of your vehicle?
Right.
Yeah. So, so that was good. But I mean, they taught us a lot of stuff. The weapon stuff was next level stuff that we had no idea about. Shooting 50 cal, shooting Mark 19s. But we only shot Mark 19s with training like flashbangs, I think, in them, obviously, because then we would have leveled wherever we were shooting.
Yeah.
But yeah, 240s and all that kind of fun stuff. So man, that was an opportunity to shoot stuff that, we would never get to shoot again. So that part was really cool.
Cool. Did they have the case bands and stuff up there yet? I mean, what was the infrastructure like? I mean, I hear you on the toilets. What about showers? I mean, were you guys shower? Like, what were you doing to clean up?
I feel like where we were was, I don't know what they used it for prior to that, but it was some kind of security forces training area. It wasn't where we ended up going the next time, for sure.
Okay.
We didn't have like a lot of hard buildings. Most of the things were tents. And then we had one classroom that I think was like a security forces tech school classroom. I feel like it had to be, because why else was that thing there? Because we would see security forces doing tech school all the time.
Does Creek D sound?
Creek D.
Yeah. I know that was a portion of, anyway.
I don't know.
Okay. So,
yeah.
So it wasn't the same BC3 location that we went through in 07.
No, that, because that turned into, they named it Camp AP, right?
Yeah, Anderson Peters.
Camp Anderson Peters, yeah. So it wasn't AP. It was like some of the places where we trained and stuff was the same area, but like the living, the classroom, where we ate, all that stuff, we weren't even there. We were somewhere else.
Yeah. Were you guys eating?
And everything was
eating MREs?
MREs. I think only MREs. I don't think we had hot meals at all.
Yeah, fun.
Not that I can think of. Yeah, I don't think we ever had hot meals.
So what was that?
Yeah, all MRE.
How long was that training?
I don't remember, but I'm gonna say it was probably probably 3 to 4. I want to say like 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think it was that much longer than that. I could be completely off, but I don't remember being there for like 6 weeks or anything crazy.
That's a long time eating MREs, man.
It is a long time.
So you getting pumped up in training?
Yeah, getting super psyched. Yeah.
Are you thinking, what's your mindset? Just warrior, like, let's go get it? Or are you like, what am I getting myself into?
I mean, I guess that part's always in the back of your head of what am I getting into? But, they do a good job of pumping you full of adrenaline and just, building you up and showing you that you can do this. And, a lot of military training is the same. You come into it, you try to do something, you see how bad you are at it. And then by the end, you're able to do whatever that thing is. And you go, oh my God, I am a God now. I can do anything, and that worked to an extent. I think the nerves start setting in the closer you get, but up until then, it's all adrenaline and a lot of guys talking a lot of trash that ends up being BS later, about how they're going to do all this and they're going to do that. And they can't wait to blow somebody's head off and all this kind of stuff. But when you get in country, a lot of that changes.
Yeah. When the bullets actually start flying, huh? So, so BC3, you catch your airflow over. Did you guys have a few day layover waiting on your airplane ride, or did you just get?
No, because we went from there and we went to what's it called, man? Udari Range.
Yeah.
Is that where it is? Yeah,
yep,
we went
Udari.
there. and we shot. And that's when we got to do like live fire target stuff, like because you're out in the middle of the desert and you can actually roll your convoy and shoot 50 cals at targets, which was like super dope. And then you get to the very end of it, and they're like, now you got to walk back the whole way that you just drove. You have to walk back and pick up the brass.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Because we're out there letting loose, man.
Yeah.
You know? And then little did we know what was on the other end of that. But we did that, and then we did some like CLS kind of stuff, and then we went into country.
Okay.
But really, no real breaks though. No like hangout time or anything like that.
How'd you guys get up? Because you guys were actually based in country in Iraq. Mm-hmm. What, Spiker?
Yeah, we're at Camp Spiker.
Camp Spiker. So how'd you get
from 1058?
1058. How'd you guys get there from Udari?
How did we get there? We went into. That's a good question. How did we get there? I'm trying to remember now. I know we flew into Kuwait, and then we drove from. No, I think we might have flown. Oh, here's what happened. So Spiker had an airfield. So we ended up flying into Kuwait and then driving to another base in Kuwait. At the time, I didn't know any Kuwait bases, so I couldn't tell you where we were at the time. But we went from one to the other, and then we ended up catching airlift into Spiker proper, and they did like the whole combat landing crap and all that.
On like a what?
C-130.
Okay.
C-130. Yeah.
Cool.
So, no, or was it C-17? No, it was a C-17 because it was really hot when we got off the back of that plane because they didn't turn the engines off.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big ass plane.
It was one of the two.
Yeah.
I wish I had a better memory.
That's a long time ago now.
Like a long time ago.
Yeah, man.
But then it's like, I listened to your Chief Bunts episode and I'm like, he's recalling stuff from the 80s like it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a real letdown.
That guy's mind is a steel trap.
Yeah, man. It's next level.
Cool. So you guys land. You're in Spiker. What time of year is this? Like you said, it was summer or?
This is spring.
Okay.
We got there in spring. Yeah, because it was almost summerish. Because I want to say that we got. It was almost the same time frame as 07. It was like April to October or something like that. It was
okay.
It was that we were in country. Because it rained one time the whole time we were there, and it was like our first or second time out. It actually rained, and then it stopped, and it never rained again for all of those months that we were there.
So, what's training like? You get there, you do left seat, right seat?
Yeah, we come in. They team us up with guys who are about to go home, and we do the left seat, right seat thing. That's when I met, you remember Wilson that worked at the TOC?
Yeah.
Staff Sergeant? Yeah. That's where I met Wilson for the first time. He was on the crew that I did left seat, right seat with in 05.
Wilson was stationed in Davis Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So I met him at my first duty station. Yeah, he was one of the ones telling me all the war stories.
Yeah, that's funny then, because that's probably he probably had just left me, right?
Yeah.
He finished training me and then went and told you all the story. Yeah, because they had all kind of crazy stories about, people getting shot and, shooting back and leveling vehicles and kind of crazy stuff that happened back in those days. Before a lot of ROE crackdowns, came, because I think Air Force guys with big weapons didn't necessarily always make the best calls. Yeah, so I know we lost our Mark 19s, and the story that went along with that was that, some dude had like leveled a floor of a building because, he saw something. And they're like, all right, guys, you probably shouldn't have this kind of firepower. You don't need a fully automatic grenade launcher on top of your vehicle.
Right. Yeah,
overkill.
I'd heard those stories too, that anywhere from like it was an apartment complex to a building, or just, some dude went just nutso. And just started.
There's a lot of stories.
Yeah,
I just remember one day they said, "Hey, and it was really early in getting there that they were like, "You're no longer taking these out." We were like, "Okay." I mean, no one had ever fired one out there anyway, so we're like, "Okay." We didn't think we needed them anyhow, but yeah, they took them away really quick.
Yeah, 50 cal is pretty heavy duty. It's like,
yeah, you don't normally need to upgrade from a 50 cal.
Right. Oh man. So, what's your first mission like?
Left seat, right seat mission. It's a turn and burn. Most of our stuff then, because we were in country, was turn and burns because we could get to a base and back in a day. I don't remember what base we went to, but I know that we went to like the same like 2 or 3 bases all the time. So it was uneventful, but it was terrifying. We got loaded up. I was in the back of a 5-ton with like a pole sticking out of the middle of the bed and like a 50 cal mounted on top of it. And around us was just like the wall of the truck, but there was no additional armor or anything on it. So it was kind of like you can man the gun, or you can put the gun up and you can just sit down until they need you, and then pop it back up when you need to man the gun. So before we leave the fob, we stop at the test fire pit every time, and you get to shoot a few rounds of whatever you're on. That was always the most fun part, was shooting at the test fire pit.
Yeah.
and then we went out that gate, and the first time we went out that gate, I remember just like looking to my left and right and just feeling like, no, I'm actually in Iraq now. Like the base is one thing, but now I'm just on a regular street where there are regular Iraqis just driving around, living their life. And I'm just out here where I've heard so many terrible things have happened to people. I'm just here now. And it was like, it's like the air gets sucked out of your chest, kind of like your heart starts beating really fast. And it's just like you feel like you just like came alive almost. Like what just happened? You're transformed.
Are you in the back of this truck by yourself, or is there someone else back there with you?
I'm in the back with the actual gunner, because it's left seat, right seat. So, who's going to be my truck commander or somebody else at that time was in the front with their driver. And then I was in the back with their gunner, and he was kind of telling me what to do and what not to do. He was like, all right, we'd go and drive up ahead of the convoy and block the intersection. And he'd tell me like, this is where you look. This is how you do this. Look at that guy, point your gun at that guy. And then he'd be like, he just kind of walked me through it like that. And I saw how the tactics that they use versus the tactics that we learned kind of differed. The big thing just being like, it was a lot smoother in real life, because one, it was like, it wasn't training. So everything didn't have to be safe. It was like, if you need to get up to the front of the convoy to block something, get over there and floor it. We don't care if you got to hop the curb, if you got to run over something, a dog, a cat, it doesn't matter. Just get up there and do the job. So it made everything a lot smoother than in training.
Are you guys running ops during the daytime at all?
Yeah. All day. All daytime. Everything we did was daytime. Yeah. The only time we were going at night was if it just happened to get dark on our way back or something like that. But everything was daytime. We were leaving, we were on our trucks getting ready before the sun came up so that we could leave like at daylight, get down to wherever we were going and back, before the sunset.
So, how are you guys communicating in the back of the truck? Did you have a headset or anything on, or were you just yelling back and forth?
We were just yelling back and forth, leaning around the side and knocking on the window of the truck or something like that if we needed to. For the most part, they could look. Because there's a window. I feel like behind, they could look through there and we could bang on that window and get their attention. It wasn't a lot of communication that we had to have, to be honest. We didn't get contact or anything like that to where I think we needed to have any complicated communication back and forth. But yeah, there was nothing back there. Later on, when we were in Humvees and in other vehicles, and once we got our armor, we got new vehicles, we got new armor and all that kind of stuff, then all our gunners had headsets and stuff like that, and we could talk between everybody, no problem.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that happened. That transition? I bet you're happy to get armor, huh?
Oh yeah.
Were guys getting were guys getting in contact with people?
Yeah, that's what swung everything. There had been contact in the past, nothing super heavy. I don't think any, it was kind of like, I think some people had caught some shrapnel kind of stuff, but there's nothing huge. And then there was a young woman that was on our team, or that was on our deployment. She wasn't on my team. And, you know how in Humvees, like the door, there's a gap between the door and the bottom of the vehicle. Like it's, the door doesn't go all the way to the bottom of the vehicle, basically. So there's a little spot below the door, and some IED went off and some shrapnel went under the door and it caught her in the foot. And I think, like, at the time we all felt like nobody cared when guys were getting hurt, but when like a young woman gets hurt, it perked everybody's eye. They're like, whoa, 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 this thing is really dangerous now. We're like, yeah, man, it's been dangerous. But it was like we did like a full stand down for I think a few weeks, and we got a bunch of vehicles brought down from BIOP, and we had it was like overnight, because if we had 5 tons with flak jackets and over the door and sandbags on the floor, and all of a sudden overnight we had like all these brand new Humvees and stuff like that, and it changed. Everything changed. Got a whole lot more comfortable. That's for sure.
Was there a big IED threat then? Like in 2007, it was crazy, the IED threat.
Yeah. There was a lot of there was IEDs and there was small arms fire. I don't think EFPs were that big yet. I don't remember hearing too much about EFPs. Like, I remember hearing about it, but it wasn't like 2007 where they were using them like all the time,
Right.
But it was an IED threat. It was a lot of small arms fire, and a lot of it was just being able to navigate the road in general, being able to, like, from a gun truck perspective, a lot of our issues that we got into, or little scuffles and stuff like that, was because we were just trying to get regular people out of the road. It was just trying to clear the road for the convoy to come through in the first place. It wasn't necessarily insurgents or someone trying to attack us. We were just trying to get through the road and move regular cars out of the way.
Yeah. How many gun trucks were you guys rolling with then?
I want to say 5.
Okay.
I want to say 5, I think was because our C2 was in the middle, and then I think we had a front. Yeah, 5.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, rolling daytime ops, I would imagine the civilian traffic was probably heavy.
Yeah, it was. And we would go through like city, little towns and stuff like that, where they would actually be outside and, living their lives and doing normal stuff, which we didn't get too much of when we, went at night.
Cool. So anything kind of notable off of that deployment?
Not really. I mean, we had some small arms fire. Our team never had an IED. I feel like something happened on my team after I left my team, but nothing huge. Like, we didn't have anybody get hurt or come back injured. I think we had one guy on the team who ended up having some hearing loss because of an IED that went off pretty close to him. But yeah, as far as like injuries and death or anything like that, we were pretty smooth.
It's funny, like you say that, like, oh yeah, nothing happened, just some IEDs causing people to go deaf,
I mean, you're absolutely right. I guess, I mean, like, in the grand scheme of things, nobody's coming back missing limbs or as far as I know, everybody was able to live like a normal life when they got home to some extent. I mean, I don't know how that poor guy's ear is now, but I think we all had some hearing loss, honestly. I just think he had a lot more.
Yeah, cool. So you said after you left your team, did you get what happened there?
Yeah, I got into it with my C2, and I ended up getting he ended up taking me off the team.
Oh shit!
The funny thing is, like, looking back on it, my issue with him was that I thought he was too soft. I thought that he wanted, it was like we had gone through this training where it said, and I might have the distance off now, but let's say you're in the rear gun truck. nobody can come within 100 feet of this vehicle, right? If you get within that amount of space, I'm going to start firing at you. Was basically how we learned. It was like we had the whole ROE. It was like show the weapon, wave it or whatever, cock it, let them see you cock your weapon high in the air. We'd usually like hold up our M4 out of the turret and rack one in to like let them see that we mean business. And then we were at that time still, they were saying we could do warning shots, but try not to. Like it should go from if they're going to keep coming, then you should start firing at them. Now I wasn't firing at people all the time. Like I fired one shot my entire time on the road out there, and it was a warning shot. But his philosophy was more like, let them go. They're fine. And I was just like, I don't think everybody's fine. We don't know what that guy has in his trunk, you know?
Yeah, you don't want to find out the hard way that's a VBED vehicle.
Exactly.
ID.
And I mean, I'm not a psychopath. I don't want to shoot some guy who's trying to take his kid to school. I mean, I'm not some. I don't want to hurt anybody if I don't have to. But at the same time, I'm like, if this dumbass is just going to keep driving towards our convoy, guess what's going to happen? So we had an incident where I fired a warning shot. He was super upset about it. And he just kicked me off the team.
So did you get on another team, or were you on base then?
I ended up being on base my last, I think, two months there or something like that. And I was working at the airfield, moving cargo.
Okay.
Coming off the planes and stuff, which wasn't a bad gig. It was just annoying because I wanted to be back on the road with the team, you know?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was attacks like on the base? Were you guys getting mortared at all? Was that a big thing?
I don't think mortars were a big threat. We did have maybe one or two instances where all right, let me put it like this. I think more things happened on that base than we cared about, because a lot of the base was spread out so much, like most of them are, is that when something would happen, it would normally happen near the gate or near like the outskirts. It wasn't really happening near us. But I think there was only like one or two times where mortars fell anywhere near anything that mattered, because they normally would blow up in the middle of a field somewhere and nobody was really getting hit. But that place, I think later that they ended up hitting that chow hall.
Okay.
I feel like they blew up that chow hall like a year later or something like that. So there was probably a bigger threat there than I actually thought. I actually knew at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So you kind of finish out that deployment then?
Yeah. I end up we finished that deployment. Come back to Aviano. Sort of a changed man, as most people do after their first deployment. But I came back super motivated as far as like my career and stuff. I just wanted to like, you know, you couldn't tell me much because now I'm like an A1C and I got more ribbons than most staff sergeants. And I'm kind of thinking I'm on the top of my game, you know?
Yeah. So we're at the end of deployment here.
Mm-hmm.
What's you get back to base, and how much longer were you at Aviano?
Let's see. So I feel like I was there till 2006. So I probably was there maybe another year or so, a little over a year. Just enough time to party like I lost like I lost a lot of time. Try to blow all the money I made.
Yeah. We as vehicle operators like to party, man.
Yeah, it's kind of a problem, seeing as how we have to drive for a living. It kind of those things don't always go well together. The first thing that happened when I got back from that deployment was I found out that I missed BTZ.
Okay.
And I was so upset about it because I just came back from this crazy deployment. You know, I got like Army medals that no Air Force person even has. You know, like I think I'm just like the coolest thing in the world. And they're like, no, you know, when you were gone, this other airman, he did a lot of airmen against drunk driving hours, so he got it. And I was just like, this thing is rigged. Like, it kind of soured me on a lot. on how these things work. So I was like, that makes absolutely no sense to me.
You got a chip on your shoulder, huh?
Yeah, because I mean, their whole thing was that the work that I did when I was gone wasn't for the base. It was for, you know what I mean? It's like apparently they want BTZ things need to be like base specific in their eyes anyway at the time. So I don't know, but I was I had a chip on my shoulder, pretty pissed off about that. But when I got back, I had a lot of fun. But I was really, really itching to get out of that place.
Yeah. All right. So where do you go to next?
Next, so by this point, I was getting a little homesick, so I wanted to come back to the States. So I ended up going to Moody Air Force Base in Georgia.
Right on.
In Valdosta, Georgia.
Hot and humid.
It was hot and humid and had a whole different set of insects that I didn't even know about, that apparently are only in southern Georgia and Florida. So that was weird. It was a very polarizing place. I had some really cool friends there. I also experienced racism like I never have in my life. I was like, man, we were really close. Like southern Georgia is a different animal. So I learned a lot there in that respect as well. But the base wasn't bad. The ops tempo was slow.
So with the racism, was that with like civilians off base, or were you experiencing that? Okay.
That was mostly like when I got there, you know how bases have off limits lists, like, hey, don't go to this bar, don't go to this area. A lot of overseas bases have that kind of stuff. Like, hey, there's a red light district, we don't want to see you over there.
Kind of they call them blacklisted.
Yeah. So I get to Moody, and they're like, hey, there's this bar, and it was like right off base. Like, you know, if you were a dorm rat, you were probably going to this bar because it was so close. And they were like, you know, it's on the off limits list. Blah blah blah, and then a little later they're like, "Hey, it's off the off limits list." But I never knew it was what it was on the list for. And I ended up going there with like some of my friends, and I ended up getting kicked out of the bar. I mean, for just like absolutely no reason. It was just a really weird place to be, and I learned where I was wanted and where I was not wanted around that place.
Yeah, that sucks.
I do not recommend that area to anybody. Just steer clear of Valdosta, Georgia, at all costs. It's not a great place. But the base was cool. The base was cool in the fact that, like, coming off of high ops tempo, it was cool to go to a place where, you know, we had a pool table and people were just kind of hanging out and chilling. And, you know, if you weren't on the road, nobody was barking up your ass to do something. It was just kind of like, you know, hey man, if you ain't got anything to do, study your CDCs or play pool. We don't really care.
That's fun. Yeah, that's a lot better. Yeah, because I kind of had that at the ACC base in Tucson. I mean, you know, you were saying you couldn't sit on a couch, stuff like that. The shop in Tucson was like a trailer, like legit trailer. Like they just and it was kind of converted into an office space. You had dispatch in there and like 2 or 3 offices, and you know it was like the shop super's office and like, you know, dispatch and there was one computer and like a big table for lunch, but like you weren't really allowed inside unless you were at the computer working on something or doing your CDCs or something like that. So we just, I mean, literally in fucking Arizona, Tucson, Arizona heat, out underneath the overhang that was like covered in camo netting, and like you had to be out there, and if it was just wash every vehicle kinda, and like when they were done, start over. And we had guys that would peel back the weather stripping on the cars and stuff, and like, well, there's some dirt in there, do it all over, like and when I went to England, it was like, chill, watch. All the Brits always had on. I don't know if you ever watched the show Top Gear. Oh yeah. That's all they wanted to watch over there. So it was like, go chill, watch Top Gear, or fuck around, whatever. Like they weren't too. I mean, shit. We would take refuel vehicles, and there was gas pumps like right across the street. But we'd take 2 airmen and go drive to the complete opposite side of the base on the airfield.
Kill time.
We would fly. We would drive on the flight line, so it was 15 miles an hour. Sleep on the one person would sleep on the way there, another person sleep on the way back. We turn getting gas into a 2-hour thing, and no one seemed to give a shit.
Now it's lunch.
Yeah.
Would you look at the time? Yeah, those are the best kind of bases. I mean, that's probably why too. At that base, I got closer with my fellow airmen there. You know, we were tighter because we weren't stressed out the entire time we were at work. You know, at Aviano, everybody was just mad at work all day. You know? Everybody's just angry at each other, and they just couldn't wait to go home. Whereas at Moody, people would get off of work and kind of hang out sometimes, which was just like a very odd thing to me. I never saw people stay at work longer than they had to.
Cool. So how long were you there? This is 2006?
Yeah, I was there from 06 to 08. I was at Moody.
And
that's where Sergeant Ross was my supervisor there.
Okay. He was my convoy commander.
Yeah. Well, that's where we deployed from.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't realize you guys were from the same base.
Yeah.
I say my convoy commander. I forget we were on the same goddamn team.
That's right.
So yeah, you must not have been there long, and you're getting spun up to go on the 07 deployment.
Right. Yeah. And I'm thinking that it's going to be similar to my last deployment, which in some ways it was, but it was also very different in 07 than it was in 05. Some for the better. I feel like it was a much better deployment in 07. It was more comfortable. The missions were longer, which is what you want on a deployment. Because, man, those days used to fly by when we would just be out on the road and come back and be like, hey, man, how many days passed? Oh, wow, cool. You know? So it was definitely much better. I prefer that deployment. Minus the bad things that happened, obviously. But, you know, as far as my personal deployment, it was by far better.
Yeah, I remember you what position were you? You were RTO. And where did you sit in the convoy? Were you third truck back?
Third or fourth. Cheney was my driver.
Cheney. Yeah.
Yeah, Cheney.
I love that dude, man. He was so young. He was so young, man. He was such a kid.
He was an actual child, man. It's funny because like none of us were that old, but it was like he felt like a real kid. Like,
I felt like he was a little brother or something. I had to look after, man. I had to keep my eye on him. Man, he's a good dude.
I love that guy. And like, man, me and him, we had some really great times, and like we had other times where I was screaming at this dude at the top of my lungs for something.
I remember he was in my squad in BC3 and stayed in the same tent with me. Remember, we used to have to line up before formation in the morning, and we would have to make sure you had your dog. You had this whole list of things.
Oh, right.
That you had to have on you, and they would check you every day at formation. So they would do a little pre-check, bro. Dude, I'm telling you, for weeks, this dude would forget one thing at least every day, and I was kind of had to be responsible for him. So like, come on, get your fucking shit, man. Come on, let's go. And we're always running late. We're always running. We're just running like, fuck, hurry up. We're going to be late. We have like seconds before we're late. And be like, get in there and be like, all right, pull your dog tags out. I'll be like, you don't have your fucking dog tags, bro? Why do you even take them off, man?
That was him, man. Yeah. That was him, because we'd be lining up our trucks in country, and we'd be about to leave, and I'd be like, do we have water, Cheney? And he'd be like, oh yeah. Like, dude, we've been sitting on the trucks for 3 hours, man. Why do we not have water?
Yeah. That was good.
Crazy. He's a hell of a driver though, man. He held his own out there.
I know we weren't in the same truck, but I just remember you telling me, like, because I bounced around. I was in maintenance Bob. I was in the ACC truck. I was in the pace setter truck.
I remember you being with Wisdom for a while.
Yep. And then, I put on senior airman over there, And then, and I think they gave me a truck then. And I was like with Stinson. I was with maintenance guy a bunch. I was with, I don't know. I kind of bounced around. But I remember our in the pace setter truck, you were you were like, just knock those motherfuckers off the road. Like, like I remember you telling me, like, get those assholes off the, like, we've been here how long? They don't fucking know.
Yes. Dude, it would drive me crazy, especially in 07, because I was like, dude, by now, you guys know. You see a huge convoy coming, you already know what it is, man. Like, either outrun us and get out in front of us, or move and you have to wait for all of these trucks to pass you. But it was like they would wait for the green to pass, and then like the whites would come, and then they try to like get back in on those and stuff. I don't know. They just didn't. I get it a lot more now than I did then. Like now I'm like, well, their lives had been kind of turned upside down for like years now. And they were trying to just like get to what they were trying to get to. But at the time I was like, I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how serious you took it or what your mind, like for me, they had me brainwashed in training that like literally everything was there to fucking kill me.
Absolutely.
And, you know, like you said, as you get away from it, you're like, man, this motherfucker's just trying to get to work. You know, he's just trying to go somewhere, you know?
And we're over there like, move.
Yeah, dude, I ran some people off the road, and like, I'm actually amazed because like I'm trying to hit them, and it's kind of hard to fucking hit them. Like, because I would try and hit them with a trailer. I would try and like cut out and then cut back over. And I never hit anybody. I don't think anyway. And but yeah, I remember just looking and seeing people like, oh fuck.
Yeah. Remember that somebody hit that kid that time. Was that in 07 or was that 05? I get mine mixed up now. Nobody, like, he didn't get killed or anything, but one of the trucks, like a white, or ended up like hitting a kid, and then the kid's parent had to come out and like pick him up or whatever. He was like alive, and I don't know. Do you remember that? Was that ours?
I don't remember that in 07.
Okay. That might have been an 05 thing then.
I remember we detained by Camp Cedar, Camp Cedar 2. Those dudes were
Right.
I think those.
Check it out.
Oh, nice. Nice. That shirt looks brand new, man.
Yeah, I don't wear it much. It's like too thick. It's like a hot ass t-shirt.
Yeah. Since this is audio only, he's got on a Camp Cedar 2 shirt. But yeah, these dudes were trying to dig an IED hole, and it was like half the fucking convoy drove past, and they were still digging. And then I remember my truck went by, and that was like, they looked up and tried to act surprised, like, oh, there's a freaking convoy. Oh, we better. And they had their hood up on their car. They started working on their car. But I got to see we were rolling with the ASV then. This fucking army dude gets out. He don't even got his body armor on, which I guess it was tight in those ASVs. Like if you had body armor.
Take it off.
Yeah. And he gets out with his 9, and he's like racks the slide, and he's just kind of like, come here, motherfuckers. They zip tied those dudes up and threw them in the ASV and brought them on base. But yeah,
one of the things that sucked about having such a long convoy was that like sometimes stuff like that would happen and you didn't ever get to see it because it was like it's 3 miles behind you, or you know.
Yeah.
It's like we were so stretched out in those, because I mean I don't remember how many, you probably remember how many trucks we were pushing, but it was a lot in some of those.
50, 75, something like that. I mean, you would look in
stretched.
Yeah, you would look in the rearview mirror and all you would see is just a line for as long as you can see.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, and there's always that girl that stood there. Oh no, was it that woman? Remember, there was someone that always stood out there, and you couldn't even see a house for miles. There's just some lady standing there begging for food always. Remember that?
No.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, because that was my first deployment, and you know, you talk about yours kind of being a little bit asshole puckered up in that first mission. When we were doing left seat, right seat, we were going. That our first mission, we went out of Navistar, which it was a base they had shut down and moved. They moved where you would move north across the border to another place on the other side of the country.
Is that what K crossing ended up being?
Yeah, K crossing, and then so I remember there was fuel tankers coming south crossing the border at the same time we were going north. So and this was a narrow ass road. Our mirrors were like an inch away from their mirrors. And I was like, we're going to hit one of these fucking trucks and die. And I'm going to be in country for 30 seconds, dude.
That'd be the worst.
And I know I just kept looking over at the army dude that we're doing left seat, right seat with. And I'm like, well, he seems calm. I guess I'll be calm.
Yeah, exactly. That's how left seat, right seat went. I was like always checking their reactions. I was like, you guys seem like this is fine. So I guess this is fine. And early on, I mean, when we started rolling by ourselves, like after the first couple of missions, I feel like we all got a little complacent. I mean, I remember like not wearing my helmet until we got to like Scania. And then I'd be like, all right, now we probably need to throw my helmet on, you know, like now looking after Barnes, I never did it again. But before, you know, I was really just like being reckless.
Oh, we were so reckless, man. we would go out on would you go out? You go out on the catwalk. So a catwalk, the area, we're driving 915. They're like Freightliner semi trucks. We would open up the door doing fucking 60 miles an hour down the highway and walk around to the back of the truck and take pisses off. And some people were shitting off the catwalks. I remember someone. I know you were wild, dude. I know you got some stories.
Dude, I had quite a few of those because I remember me and Stem would like try to talk about like who had the fastest piss. Like he's like, oh, I peed at 55, and I'd be like, man, we peed at 60, and like he's like seeing who could, and it was just wild because I mean before either you get hit or you know someone who gets hit, it feels like you're invincible a little bit because you're like we're on these roads every day. Everybody else is getting hit, but we're not. So, like, how much more can I tempt fate, you know? And Cheney was like very anti catwalk pisses. Like he would get very mad when I would do it. But yeah, I'd climb around to the side. Sometimes I'd get out of the truck and just stand on the catwalk and just hold the rail just for a little bit, just to get some air.
Yeah, well, you'd be exhausted. You know, you'd be up already 12 hours or whatever. And I remember I would go out there, just to stay awake, just to get that air hitting you in the face. Yeah, I remember, man, we were fucking wild, dude. People were, we had like luggage racks on the roof of the trucks, and people were surfing on those things, doing fucking 50 miles an hour down the highway. And I mean, looking back now, I think it was just like a stress reliever too. Just like, sure. We were just like, man, you're just sitting in this truck, just fucking waiting to get blown up. And it's just like, all right, I'm going out.
Yeah. It took a toll on you mentally, man. It was like no reprieve from it because it took forever to leave every time. You know, from the time we got to the trucks to the time that we actually left the base was so long that you were like over it before you even left, you know?
Yeah. It was like 2 hours we had to be out to the trucks or something like that, dude, right?
It felt like an eternity. It was probably like 2 hours. It felt so long. And sometimes, you know, our times would get pushed back and stuff like that. And we just kind of and we would leave Eric John, and then we'd go to like some place to load up. And then who knows if those guys are going to be ready to load us up. So then we'd end up sitting there forever waiting for those guys. And then you get on the road and you do your long convoy. Then you get to the end. And that part's not fast because now you got to download and you don't even get to get, you know, real sleep there. So it was just like a cycle of being tired and nervous and all those things like all at once. And you just had to do something crazy to kind of like shock yourself.
Yeah, we had these energy drinks, Rippets there, and we were like shotgunning those, and we were just crazy.
Pounding those things.
You were you want to talk about jumping from Connexes to Connexes and truck to
I forgot, man. Yeah, that was probably that was really fun. So before we would leave or when we got somewhere, we'd always have our truck staged up normally in like lines of 2 or 3, depending on how many trucks we had. And we would be parked really close to each other. So I would climb up to the top of my truck and then get on the trailer, and then I would leap from trailer to trailer down the line, and then back and forth across.
And these trailers had shipping connexes on them, so you're up there 50 feet in the air.
Yeah, and that was I missed that. I don't know if my knees could take that now, but man, that used to be fun. I had some falls too, man. I ate it off of one of those things a few times. There's a few times where I caught the edge of it and my boot was slippery and I went down. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe when you're, how old was I then? Shoot, 24, 23 or 24. Maybe when you're 24, your body can just take that kind of thing, falling 15 feet off of a Connex on your flat on your back and then just jumping up like like nothing happened.
Do you remember the game we used to play? That movie came out, Shenanigans. And in that movie, it was like the prank where you'd get to punch them or whatever the hell it was in that movie if you show your nutsack.
Oh God, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, and flight suits were perfect for that.
So flight suits were perfect for that. I remember one time, dude, we were sitting in our truck, and all of a sudden, like nothing's going on, and boom, boom, all of a sudden, he jumped off the roof of our truck and landed on the hood. You're like, what's up? All of a sudden, there's fucking joiners standing on the front of our truck. We had people trying to show their balls the whole deployment
for a long time, man. There's a lot of ball showing then. I remember that. I remember we learned how to make MRE bombs too.
Yeah.
And that was another thing, because when we'd be sitting there at a fob, you know, making one of those and then just like sitting it on someone's hood right in front of their window if they're sleeping in the cab, and just letting that thing go off.
Yeah,
which probably wasn't a very nice thing to do for people who are, you know, constantly in fear of explosions.
Yeah, no, it was a perfect thing to do. Yeah, well,
we probably took some years off of some people's lives doing it.
Yeah, you remember? Yeah, what else did we do, man? Dude,
we played a ton of football because I always had a football with me. Yep. We played like catch every time we stopped anywhere we were. We were always playing like 4 or 5 people would be out there throwing the ball. I know that was a huge thing that we did. But man, we had some really funny people and some really like Stem was probably one of my best friends there. He was so funny. Stemkowski, our LVC, our lead vehicle commander. I remember him being, by the time we got to the end, he had never left out of the side door of the PCV. Do you remember that? So like, remember the PCV had like a door on the front, a door on the back, and then it had like a side door, which I believe was where you were.
A double door, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I feel like your bunk was like close to that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I was right next to it.
Yeah. So he was like superstitious being the lead vehicle commander. And we got like halfway through the deployment. He had never gone out of the side door. So he was like, I can't ever go out of that side door. Like, no matter what, I can't go out of the side door or else I'm going to die or something. He was just and then he ended up like, I think not doing our last 2 missions because he was just like, he didn't want to tempt fate. He was like, I've gone this far and I just can't do like another one.
Yeah.
I could have that story all screwed up. I thought I remember him telling me that.
Well, I don't know. I watched some documentaries on the war and stuff like that, and it's kind of general consensus that 2007 was like the worst year. You know, I mean, remember those intel reports we'd get? Where basically they're like, "You're gonna die." Like that's what they.
They show us the attacks on the map, and it would be like our entire route. They were like, "So in the last 24 hours, there's been here."
Yeah, IAT.
We have reports of suspected activity here. And it would be our entire route. Just
and
it was insane.
And yeah, I think that's also, you know, kind of contributed to our complacency. We're like, yeah, okay, we're gonna get blown up at every bridge we go by, you know. And it was like within 24 hours, like since we were there, like there was an attack. Yeah, it was nuts, man. That's nuts.
I think we were kind of like, either do it or don't do it. I'm tired of hearing about how I'm going to get blown up.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, in my mind, I always thought like you can't, you have to put yourself in a mental state of I don't care, or it's going to happen or it's not, or because you're sitting in that truck for that long every day worrying about it. I think you're going to have a brain aneurysm, you know?
I think you're absolutely right. And that, you know, I try not to hold it against guys because, you know, I don't always agree with a lot of things that veterans say. But I understand the kind of person that you have to be to do certain jobs. You know, it's like if you're a special forces guy and you probably can't be out there every day being afraid. You know, you kind of have to put yourself into this kind of mindset like we had to do. It's saying like, hey man, I'm either going to die or I'm not. And I'm not going to spend every second out here worried about if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that does something to you mentally. And I mean, we were fortunate that in our career field, we had to do that for 6 months and then it was over. I mean, some of us had multiple deployments, but either way, we did it for a portion of time and then we didn't have to do that. We didn't have to be in that mind frame for our entire careers, you know?
Yeah. So we do that 2000. Was there anything that stood out to you on that deployment?
Stood out. You mean like incidents or just
I mean,
general?
Yeah, I don't know. Anything that happened that I don't know, kind of sticks with you, or I mean, obviously probably Barnes getting killed.
Above all, that's probably the thing that sticks with me the most. Just because I mean, like we were saying with that complacency, sometimes things have to hit really close to home, and it has to be like, hey, oh, the guy that I was talking to yesterday, or the guy that I saw at the chow hall yesterday is now gone, and it's that immediate. It can be that immediate for any of us, and I think it kind of changed our minds. Not to say that we didn't get complacent again after that, but it definitely put that fear of God of saying like, hey man, it can happen. It's not just a story that you read about. It's a real thing that can happen to any one of us. So that stuck with me a lot. And then not on that deployment, but when Ashton got killed.
Yeah,
a few years
Ashton
later.
was such a sweetheart, man.
Dude, that one, you know, I don't want to rank deaths or anything like that, but because I had more interaction with her, because I knew her better, that one stuck with me for years, man. Like there was like, it would be like a few years to go by and then I'd see something on Facebook, like it's her birthday or something like that. And I'd just like start crying out of nowhere. It just hit me all over again. Cause she was just like one of those, the nicest people that you'd ever meet, you know?
Yeah. I remember, Mal came to me, when we were back in England and he's like, hey, Ashton Goodman died. And I didn't realize because she was Huey.
Huey, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't know her new name either.
And I was like, I don't know who that is. And I guess long story short, like I finally figured it out. And then like she had a article on like Oprah's website and there was like a embedded reporter that had interviewed her and stuff like that. And I think that's when I figured it out. I saw her picture. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's who it was. And yeah, that one fucked with me too, man. Cause I mean, I have memories, you know, her, like, I remember her in the pool, like in Kuwait, and, you know, she was kind of just like smiling ear to ear, just bouncing around in the pool, just like so young and so like innocent, like. And I remember just looking at her and just kind of having this thought of like, you know, like looking at her like a little sister.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Like she's
I think a lot of us felt that way about her. Like she was very much like protect her kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. She was just
we were in BC3 and she was like picking up bugs, like don't kill that bug, you know, I'll carry it over here, you know? And I remember when she chipped her tooth on that 249?
Yeah. So she had, we were breaking down the 249 machine guns in class, and they're just giving us training on how to do it and everything. And, you know, they're like, and be careful, you know, this spring will fucking shoot out at you and under quite a bit of force. And she caught that fucking right in her tooth and chipped her tooth.
Right in the mouth. And I remember her just like holding her mouth and being like, I gotta go. And then she held her hand down and it was just like tooth pieces in her hand. And she wasn't like, she was just still like kind of smiling about it, like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It was bananas. And then she left and came back with fresh teeth. Yeah, man. That was probably that's probably one of the hardest ones for me. But as far as '07, I remember more good things, I think, than bad. Like, I remember our team, because I think as a team, like, we all got along, for the most part. No, I mean, we all barked at each other a few times.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
for the most part, we were pretty cool with each other. You always had the mobile party, that Bluetooth speaker that you took everywhere.
Yes, I did.
In the shower.
Yeah, I was the music guy, man. I had it was a Logitech battery powered iPod player, and yeah, I brought that thing everywhere. We go out to smoke a cigarette. We would shower wherever. And that was kind of my thing, huh?
It would be crazy because sometimes I'd already be in the shower and I'd just hear like I'd hear the music coming out. Oh, Ryan's in there too. Right, cool.
Yeah, man.
It was funny.
I remember one of the most things that stand out for me. One of them. That was my first one, man. That was a crazy deployment. Was we went to Spiker on one mission, and we were sitting by the chow hall, you and me, in a truck, and we were smoking a cigarette. And you were like, yeah, man, when I was here doing gun trucks, it would suck because that's the med bay, the medical facility right there. And you were telling me that these helicopters would just come in and they would just start taking like injured people in body bags and shit off. And no fucking sooner than you finish saying that, fucking Black Hawk lands and they start taking body bags off. And I just that fucked with me, man. I just looked at you and I'm just like, fuck.
Dude, it was not a good spot. Like, I mean, kudos to those folks that have to work those medical trauma centers and stuff like that, especially those so close to the battlefield, because they're getting guys like, mangled coming off those helicopters. And yeah, it was right next to the building that we stayed in 2005. And you would just be walking to the chow hall and you see them unloading those helicopters. That's a hell of a sight to see every day.
Yeah, that'll
it screws with you.
That'll keep you on your toes
for sure.
But all right. So 07, that was a wild, man. Overall, it was just one of the best times of my life, man. We had so much fun.
That's true. I agree wholeheartedly about that. I think it's one of those moments that is good and bad, and it's just one of those things that I think everybody who went through it grew in some way, form, or fashion. It grew us. It changed us in some way. And I just it's just strange to think about. I mean, I heard you talk about this with Chief, so we don't have to go too far into it, but the idea that so many other crews were getting hit, and it was just like, I don't know if it was like angels. I don't know if it was just like some mystic power that was circling our convoy, but it was like we would just get through these things unscathed so many times, and it didn't even make sense. Just statistically, it doesn't make sense.
No, and that's what it felt like for me too. Like we were in some fucking bubble, and we would drive past the checkpoint, and the very next convoy behind us would get hit at that checkpoint. But 2 minutes we had gone through there. It's like we had to have driven past that fucking IED. Like we had to have, or it's not like they placed it out there in 2 minutes, or maybe they did. I don't know, but like why they fucking chose the convoy behind us or the convoy in front of us.
Yeah,
that shit happened all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, I know I don't want to paint it like people who got hit because they were doing something stupid, but I think part of it was that we were very much like by the books in that we didn't take like shortcuts, like obviously we broke the speed limit, but we also, we weren't going off road. We stayed on the hardball, and there were some attacks that happened just because guys cut across the dirt, and ended up getting hit. And it's like I think we played it pretty safe. I mean, we were reckless in our in some ways, but I think as a convoy team, I think with our C2, who wasn't trying to take, Gunslinger wasn't going to go against the grain too much. He was very much like by the book in a lot of ways. And I think having Stem out front, also being like, I'm not going to take any chances that I don't have to take, probably saved us some of those times. And other times it was just luck or magic or the moon. I don't know.
Yeah. We were aggressive in so far as, pushing vehicles off and doing what we had to do. We
right.
Yeah, we didn't let any civilians or anything like that kind of get away with any shit. So yeah, maybe some of that posturing we had helped, but it was probably just luck too.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's coming back home from that one like?
So that one I come back home and I'm at Moody. So this is the first time I've come back from a deployment and I can live off base. Because now I'm a senior airman. I put senior airman on before that deployment. So I come back and I live off base. But it's really short lived. I feel like I was back less than a year because I got orders to Korea while we were on that deployment.
Oh.
I got orders to Osan. So I came back and I had a few months. Same thing as 05, came back, partied, had a good time. Me and I don't know if you remember Mason. He used to play with us too, tall guy.
Yep.
He and I got an apartment together when we got back, and we had a good time in that apartment. And then I left and went to Korea. I left and went to Korea.
Yeah, I got in trouble after that one. I mean, just wild out partying, wild out. Yeah, we got in trouble for pissing off the third story balcony at the dorms.
It was a different kind of crazy when you come back from that thing, man. Yeah. I was partying hard before that, but when I came back, it was a different animal, man.
Sure.
It was a whole different animal.
What was Korea like, man?
Korea was fun, man. Korea was. Did you ever do a tour there?
No.
Korea? Okay. I mean, it's what everybody tells you it is. I was at Osan. Nobody there at that time. Nobody could live off base, and everyone lived on base. Nobody had a car, so everybody was really close on base. It wasn't like everybody had these off base friends and family because nobody was really bringing spouses there either. So everybody there was single and everybody was living in dorms, NCOs too, senior NCOs. So we had a lot of like shop together, just partying and going off base because you could take a cab to the front of the gate and then just walk out of the gate and it was just bars and restaurants. So we had a ball there. Ops tempo was crazy, but it's like, it's what you're getting into when you go to Korea. Like nobody goes to Korea and says, hey man, it was pretty chill. Everybody tells you about the exercises, the 12-hour shifts, and all that part is true. But as soon as that shift is over, everybody's cutting loose and everybody's having a good time. So I had a ball in Korea, man. Wilson was there too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was there with him too.
So when did you get out or where'd you go after Korea?
So I did a year at Osan. And then after Osan, I went to Spangdahlem. So I was in Germany for 3 years. And then after Spangdahlem, I went to Scott. I was at Scott for about a year, and then I got out at 9.
Was Chief Bunce at Scott when you were there?
No, he wasn't there when I was there.
He may have already... What, you got out in 09?
I got out in 2011 or 12.
Okay. Yeah, I got out in 12.
Yeah.
Because I know Bunce went to Scott after he left England. But then I don't know how long he was there before he retired.
Yeah. If he was there, I don't think I ever saw it. Scott was a weird one. I did not like that base at all.
Yeah.
I didn't like it was also one of those places that I went to that you've PCS'd a few times, and especially being stationed overseas. It's kind of like whether you like somebody or not, it's sort of like shop tradition to bring that person into the fold when there's like a new airman,
Right.
You'll get to know them. And if they're some kind of weirdo, then you can distance yourself later, but sort of, it's like day one, day two, that first week, let's grab the new guy and take him out and, hang out with them and get to know people. And I got to Scott, and it was like my first time really seeing how that stateside base thing works, where people are at a base for their entire careers and they're all locked in. They've all known each other for years. And I got there and everybody was like, hey, like kind of head nod, like, hey man. And that was it. I was like, so like, it was no like, hey, welcome. I just always felt like an outsider at that place. And
it was
I just
very cliquey.
Yeah, super clicky. But the weird part is like it feels even worse when it's just one click.
Yeah.
It's just everyone is friends except for you. And it just like felt like that really weird place. And I was like, I don't know about you guys. I think you guys have your thing all figured out, and you're probably all going to be at this base until you retire, and that's fine. But I'm out. And I was already kind of soured on the Air Force and kind of over it and ready to get out when I got there. So, that just kind of pushed me over the edge, saying, all right, I think I really am over this thing. Not a huge fan of you guys. And Scott itself was like a giant office building. It was just like a bunch of DVs and, stars and all that stuff around base all the time.
What was the mission there? What airframes were you guys supporting? Or
well, we had heavies there, but we didn't touch them. They were self-sufficient. Our primary thing as ops was DV support. We also drove like the coach buses for the Air Force band, because like the Mid-Atlantic or whatever, they have like it's all regional. So the band that we had at Scott like did everything in the Midwest. So we would drive them to that stuff. And that was basically our mission there. So it was a lot of cleaning vehicles, shining up stuff, making it look pretty for 4 stars and things like that. So it wasn't the most fun mission for me anyway. So I couldn't wait to get out of that place. The upside was that it's in Illinois, and we're how everything is cheap there, like real estate. So I went from being able to rent an apartment to being able to rent a house by myself. I was like, this is pretty cool, but it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth the base.
So that was your last base?
That was my last base. Yep.
So you get out, move back to Maryland, or?
Yeah, I while I'm there and I know I'm getting out, I started applying to schools. I ended up getting into the Art Institute of Washington, which is it was at home in the DC area. Then I moved back home and I start school in January of 2013. Yeah, so I got out 2012. Started school January 2013. And then finished my bachelor's up in about just under 3 years. And then that was it.
So contrast when you got out of high school and went to college compared to now. How old are you at the end of your Air Force career?
28. I think I went to college at 28, freshman. Yeah, 20-year-old freshman.
So how was college then at 28?
A breeze. It was so easy.
Yeah, that was that was my feeling too. I was really, I wasn't the brightest kid, and I'm still not. And I remember going to school being real worried that like I was just going to be too dumb or whatever. And I got in there, I was like, this shit's easy. I'm like, I'm fucking straight A's.
Yeah,
and
dude, I never even from kindergarten, maybe in kindergarten, I don't remember. But from kindergarten to 12th grade, I never made the honor roll, not once. The first semester, or we had a quarter system. The first quarter in college, I had 4.0, Dean's List, and I had I ended up having like a 3.8 cumulative GPA when I graduated. Like, it was crazy. I was like, I was never this student before. And I found out a lot of that just had to do with discipline. It's just something I didn't have when I was 18 that I had now, because I'm used to busting my ass working so hard. And I'm like, oh, all you want me to do is like study and then take a test? Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, right.
I can do that.
I'm not getting shot at.
Yeah. And then like my school day is like 3 hours and I'm done. Like, what do you? This is great, man. You guys don't know what all these people I'm in class with. I'm like, you guys don't know what it's like to work 9 hours, 12 hours a day, every day, holidays. I mean, it's a whole different animal. I felt like I had so much free time that it was just weird.
Did you gel with the students okay?
Yeah, I mean, I gelled with people who were similar to me in the way that a lot of returning students,
Yeah.
they weren't necessarily my age, but they also weren't, 17-year-old freshmen. Like if you were like 24, 25 or above, I probably got along with you. The younger kids, it was still like they were too young for me to really get along with. Like we could joke and have fun in class, but I didn't want to actually like hang out with them outside class.
Yeah.
Because they just felt like kids to me. It's kind of weird.
Right
but
on.
yeah, I went to school for filmmaking and digital video production. So I have 2 or 3 friends from there now that I still work with today. That like we make short films and stuff like that today, and we're all really close.
You got something you push shit out on YouTube or?
We do. We have a YouTube page called Dishwasher Safe. That's the name of our company, our production company.
Cool.
We have a few of our projects up there. But yeah, right now it's just something that we do when we have time and we can all get together because we all have jobs, careers, and stuff. So when we get together, we try to knock things out when we can. But yeah, it's good. It's good. And I met some really cool people there. I'm glad I did it. College, like the GI Bill changed everything for me.
Yeah, man, that's nice to have. Yeah, it was something I fell back on, and I'm really happy it was there. I don't know where I'd be now if it wasn't.
I have no clue. I mean, I think I had an idea of things that I wanted to do. Now I'm so glad I didn't do any of those things. I'm glad that I went the route that I had. The only, I guess it all makes sense. It wouldn't work out the way that it worked out had I done it earlier. But I guess the only regret would be that I didn't do it earlier. I would have loved to get a head start on my career when I was, 25 versus, starting my career at 30 something.
Yeah, I had zero interest while I was in the military to go to school.
Same.
It was like, no, there's beers to be drank. Like, why the fuck would I go to school?
Absolutely. And I'm like, now, once I got to school, I was like, man, all these prerequisite stuff I could have knocked out. I wish I had taken like the first English and like dumb kid math and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I wish I had done that when I was active.
Yeah,
it saved me some time.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, could have had more GI Bill to utilize for higher level education. Yeah, no.
Yeah, because I wanted to, when I graduated college, like, going back to that thing of how easy it was to do it when you're older, I was like, man, I want to go to grad school now. I finished it. And then I was like, well, I don't have enough GI Bill for that, and I'm not about to take on loans. So I just forego that part.
Right.
At least for now.
So how was it transitioning, getting out? You go, was it an easy transition for you? Were you ready for it? Or was it a little bit difficult adjusting?
There was difficulties, but nothing that was nothing that was like really bad. I feel like the hard parts for me was dealing with other people that were non-military people after only dealing with military people for a long time. Like, it would bug me if I was in class and, the professor would be, speaking and then someone behind me would be talking. It just would drive me crazy. I was like, are you on crack? Like, you can't do that. This guy's in charge. And if this guy's in charge, you don't talk. And because it's just like, that's embedded in me now. It's hard to tolerate like disrespect and people, just kind of breaking out of the norm in that way. Not the norm, but people speaking out of turn and things like that would bug me. But those were like minor things. The major things came easy, and that's also because I moved back home, so I had a support system. I have my family here, so they made it a whole lot easier to get to normal.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it's a fucking awesome story. Yeah, it sounds like you're doing good now. I'm thank you again so much for coming on. And I mean,
Absolutely.
is anything else that comes to mind, or anything you wanted to talk about before you got on here that maybe we didn't get a chance to?
I guess I would want to talk. We spoke about it a little bit. Just like when we were there, when we were deployed, how we were taught and what we were told about how everybody there hated freedom and wanted to kill us, and they hate us because we're free. That whole thing. I just challenge like other veterans out there to learn more. Don't get all of your information from other military people. Live a life outside of the military and try to learn a little bit more and open up your worldview so that you can kind of make better decisions, more nuanced decisions. Because as we were just talking, we know now that some of that was BS.
Yeah.
But we took it as gospel at the time because we didn't know any better, and maybe we needed to be told that. I don't know, but I just hope everybody out there that listens to this maybe challenges some of the things that they were taught early on in their military careers.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. I know my mindset. The guys we rolled up digging that IED hole, and then we had it was the longest mission we went on. We went all the way up north. It was that 15-day mission. And where were we? We were by Crete, and there was that other. Anyway, I guess to shorten the story up, the Army gun truck guys saw the vehicle. One of the civilian vehicles in front of us was full of like IED and bomb making material. Remember that?
And we like called timers or something.
Yeah, we called QRF out, and they came and rolled that dude up. But like in my mind at that time, I was just like, oh, these guys, they're the worst people, yada yada. But as you kind of learn and getting out and hear more stories, a lot of these guys probably had a gun put through their head and were like, go dig that fucking IED hole or we'll kill you and your family. That doesn't, it doesn't necessarily mean that they wouldn't have, caused us harm, but that you can kind of empathize with it, I guess is my point, and realize that, they're just not a bunch of savages over there. We weren't on some special forces team where, you're going to hit a high value target that, is responsible for killing a lot of Americans and planning that and stuff. Most of the people we interacted with in my 2009 deployment, I guess long story short, we had we were stopped and there was a convoy of civilian vehicles coming down. And I remember we were in LVC and I was getting trained up actually to be LVC because this guy was going home. He had a medical issue he had to go home for. So he was kind of training me LVC, and he got out and he's like, I'm going to go talk to these guys and tell them they can go around. And just the mental conditioning that I had was like, oh my God, he's going to die. Like, because just everyone over there is hostile. That's kind of what they train you as. And he doesn't take his weapon or anything. He just goes up and he walks like 50 meters. And I remember like I stood up on the side of the truck and, I like got my rifle and it's all at the ready and behind the door, like the civilians can't see it, but I'm just like, oh my God. Like, and then, he goes talk to this guy. He's like, oh yeah, he's just trying to get here. And I'm just like, and I remember that was a moment in my life where I was just like, that's kind of when it clicked for me. I'm like, these are just people, These people over here, they got a life too, and they maybe got dealt a shitty hand living where they live, but they're just trying to get by, trying to do whatever they got to do. And
they didn't choose that. They were born there, and like you said, somebody comes barging in your house, grabs your family up and says, "Hey, go dig this hole over there." What are you gonna do? Are you gonna dig the hole or not? I mean, like you said, it doesn't mean that we're not gonna take action because we're not gonna get blown up for you, but it changes the way you look at these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just hope, and it's good to hear somebody who was there with me who now has the same sort of reflections on the things that I do. So that's good. I'm glad that you're in a good mental state, man, because some of our veteran brethren are still are still in that mindset, and I don't know. It's good to see that you're doing well.
Right. Yeah, and that's that's not to say there's not bad people out there. It's just
Absolutely.
it's just the chances of us coming in contact with those people were what we were told those chances were a lie.
Yeah, a little overblown.
Yeah. So no, man. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's good that you came back out of the Air Force and adjusting the civilian life. Good. I know that's hard for a lot of people. So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And, well, hey, again, I thank you so much, man, for taking time out of your day, and I appreciate it. So yeah, man, everyone, go check out Dishwasher Safe on YouTube, and check those videos out, and we'll catch you next time.